Damn, somebody said there's no audio. Thank you. Okay, well, I appreciate somebody letting me know there's no audio because I've been sitting here talking to myself. Apparently, my mic wasn't on, but thank you. I appreciate that. Too cold scope. There's no audio, but the bottom line is this, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting. I don't know what y'all caught up on, but let me just start right back over. Basically, being up 28-3 means that Marvel has built a legacy of having a great franchise. They built a legacy of creating good movies, good production, everything. Getting people are now known more for their Marvel roles than some of the other stuff that they've been doing all their life. Okay, so when I say being up 28-3, that was a reference to the Falcons because I'm gonna go ahead and assume that y'all didn't hear this part in the beginning, but that was a reference to the Falcons being up 28-3 in the Super Bowl and eventually losing to the Patriots in a game where it was supposed to be over, but it didn't end up happening like that. So it is what it is, man. So let's get into it. So I was talking about Spider-Man Far From Home, and I said Spider-Man Far From Home was your generic Marvel movie, meaning that it was decent. It wasn't great. It wasn't horrible. It was decent. It falls in the same realm of an Ant-Man, Ant-Man and the Wasp. I would say the second Iron Man was a little bit more of your generic Marvel movie, not the first one. The first one was better. The first Thor, well, actually, the first two Thors weren't that good. I put Ragnarok towards the topper echelon of Marvel movies, but I think like Guardians of the Galaxy, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, these are the movies that you have been created by Marvel to make us care about these characters that we normally wouldn't. So to me, Spider-Man Far From Home started off phase 5 in a good way because I said, okay, left a little cliffhanger, let you know that they were now going to give the identity of Spider-Man out. I thought it was doing a pretty good job. So then it was like WandaVision came out. And WandaVision, even though it started off kind of slow, I was like, okay, I like WandaVision. Don't get me wrong. I thought WandaVision was decent, but there were issues. And there were issues that Marvel writing has been ignoring. Okay. For example, Wanda, it wasn't the okay, apologies, because if you go back and you've been watching the Kamikage show for a while, I thought it was gonna be Mephisto or somebody in the background controlling things, making her be evil, but apparently it was just her. So Marvel kind of did a horrible job of her kind of taking responsibility for what she did. She basically had a whole town trapped in her reality, and she's not an anti-hero. You understand what I'm saying? She's not in a Deadpool or a Punisher level type thing where, you know, sometimes what you do is questionable. She's supposed to basically be right down the middle, an Avenger, kind of in the same level of like a Captain America. They're heroes. Their actions are not supposed to be questionable, like morality wise. So when you watch WandaVision and like you remember that end scene where the people were like, I'm in pain, I'm hurting, and she kind of was like, I don't care. I want my children. I want to be married to Vision. I hate that y'all got to be trapped in New Jersey or wherever that was supposed to be, but I want my kids. I want Vision. I want my happy life. I want all of this, right? So it was like, it was very questionable. You know, even what she did to Agatha Harkness, right? Agatha Harkness was in the comic books was supposed to kind of be her mentor. She basically said, you know what? For technically trying to stop Wanda because Wanda was in the wrong, she just kind of like she wanted to take her power, which is questionable, but she was supposed to be the evil person. But it's almost like stopping Wanda from keeping this town enslaved, basically, mentally enslaved, or like playing these roles and stuff like that. She was punished to basically play her character for who knows how long. You understand what I'm saying? So it's like WandaVision was good, but it was questionable. It was definitely questionable. So then once again, it's like you have the Falcon and Winter Soldier. Once again, I like the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but it was problematic for multiple reasons. Falcon and the Winter Soldier was problematic because, now don't get me wrong, I know some other people who do comic book content will talk about the apparent woke nature of Captain I guess it turned into Captain America and the Winter Soldier, which I'm gonna get to in a second because they blew something that I don't think they blew at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Right? They had a lot of social issues. They had a part with the cops dealing with race. being a black man, being a black Captain America, representing this country. A lot of different issues were brought up, and I was like, it's cool. It's cool. I was okay with it. It seemed legitimate, but then it was like, okay, the part where he was talking to the congressman on the street was a bit much for me. But it's like, you made John Walker the bad guy. And you have to honestly and truthfully think about, what did John Walker really do that was so bad? Because it was obvious John Walker was supposed to, I guess, quote unquote, represent America, the white man, however you want to look at it. You know, the invading force that goes around, and they have authority on any place they touch their feet, right? But let's go back and look at what John Walker did. John Walker wanted to be friends with Bucky and with Sam, right? But they were like, nah, they didn't want his help. John Walker was a soldier. He was not inherently evil. You understand what I'm saying? If you go back and watch it, there was nothing really that he did that we could consider evil. And I'm going to explain to you why. He tried to befriend him. He wanted to work with him. They hated him because he was a Captain America. But my question was, who gave up the shield? It's like, you didn't give Bucky any responsibility for not taking the shield, but all of a sudden John Walker became the bad guy. Now, understand, comic book wise, U.S. Agent is questionable, right? But they didn't bring out the wife beating aspect. They didn't bring up his alcoholism. They didn't bring up any of the more nefarious things that he did in the comic books. But it was almost like, number one, you didn't like him because he wasn't Chris Evans. Number two, you didn't like him because he was the inverse of Captain America, right? You had Sam, black, kind of sort of the sidekick was the Winter Soldier, right? White person versus a white Captain America with a black sidekick, Battlestar, Shatterstar, yeah, Battlestar, right? That's what he called himself. So you're already setting up these interesting dynamics, but let's go back and analyze what John Walker did. If you go to some of them first fight scenes, go back and watch how many people died thanks to Sam Wilson. When you go back and watch the first fight scene, count how many people actually died from Sam Wilson, right? And then that final fight scene, count the number of deaths that are included. But what happened was John Walker just saw his best friend get killed, right? And let's not forget, he was supposed to be a bad guy for taking the super soldier serum, right? Because it was supposed to start messing with his mind, making him crazy. But nobody faults Captain America for signing up to be a super soldier. But because he took a serum, we're supposed to look at John Walker in a negative manner. And I'm like, I'm watching the show and I want to dislike John Walker, but I'm looking at everything he did was technically justified. You understand what I'm saying? You just killed my best friend. I chased you down and I killed you. Like, if he would have killed him while they were fighting, what's the difference? And you're like, oh, well, the guy surrendered. I'm like, you know what I mean? You killed my boy. You didn't, you know what I mean? He didn't get that option. So I'm saying he killed somebody in the spur of the moment. Now you want to make him the bad guy. He had a little bit of a redemptive arc at the end, but these are some of these plot holes and story holes that Marvel normally doesn't do. They're normally like, for example, Thanos. Thanos in Infinity War was like, I'm doing this to help the universe. There's not enough food to go around. There's not enough resources. So if I accomplish my goal, because I grew up on a planet that was starving, I know what it's like to not have food. The reason why I killed half of these populations, you know, when you saw the scene with him and Gamora, you were like, yeah, it's genocide, but okay, I'm gonna listen to you. Thanos wasn't just evil for the sake of being evil. Now, if you go back and you look at the young lady from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, once again, she's kind of sort of like, to me, Marvel has done a bad job with women, and I'm gonna get into this a little bit later, but Marvel has done a horrible job with their women characters, and I'm gonna explain to you why again. Take the villain, if you want to call her a villain, because somebody said she was a sympathetic villain because she wanted to put the world back the way it was before the blip. Didn't really explain too much of that, right? Then all of a sudden take Agent Carter's, take her whole image that they put on her. And it's like the villain, what she was saying wasn't making a lot of sense. She was basically saying that now people want their stuff back because they got blipped back in. And I'm like, well, that seems kind of logical. If I was gone and I come back, I want my stuff back. I want my home back. I want everything back. It makes sense, but it's like, no, we want to create this kind of borderless. I don't know what they were trying to go for, what her actual objective, but it wasn't really explained. It was kind of sort of like, we want to go back to where it used to be. And it was like, okay. Then you take Agent Carter, who, if you think about it, she wanted to portray like she was upset about her position in Madripoor, right? In the criminal underground. This is what she was forced to do. But it's kind of sort of like, but you're like the boss. Like, how did you go from being Agent Carter working with S.H.I.E.L.D. to being the boss of all these criminals? Like, you're at the top. You're creating super soldier serums. You're doing all this stuff. And I'm watching it and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not digging it at all, because I'm like, why didn't you just make the I can't remember the villain's name that she was supposed to be. It's because it's, once again, it's not a memorable villain. Like, I remember Killmonger, I remember Thanos, of course. I remember who was not Loki. Well, you remember Loki when he was a villain. You know, you remember Hela from Ragnarok, and I think you'll probably remember how they jacked up the Mandarin in Iron Man 3. But for the most part, the villain is supposed to be kind of obvious, and I can't remember what's her name, not the something maker, but anyway, if you remember her name, just type it in the comments, because I can't remember what villain she was supposed to be, but it was done completely wrong. Once again, if you go back to that final fight where he was fighting you know, the what was her name, Carly Morgenthau or whatnot, it was the name of the Flag Smashers, right? So when they had that kind of final fight and he killed her, and it was just like, okay. Once again, you're taking these roles and you're just doing these random things with it, and you want to make more of a social message. Now, people who don't understand, the social messages have always existed in comic books, but they've kind of been more not on the surface, right? Like, go back and Google, or if you got time, who's Professor X, who's Magneto, and who the X-Men were supposed to represent. It'll kind of sort of give you, like, you can make a social statement, but it's just not in your face about what they're supposed to be. You know what I mean? You had Charles Xavier, who was a pacifist. You had Magneto, who was a any means necessary. We'll create our own island of Genosha, do our own thing. So, you know, you got those dynamics working, and you understand who those people represent historically. It makes for a pretty good story. But it wasn't like it is today, where it's just like, you know what, we're not going to even give you no subtext. We're just going to come right out and tell you, like, okay, here it is. So that is what happened with Phase 5. And then it was like all of a sudden we got into Loki, right? And I really enjoyed Loki, but there was a big problem with Loki. The problem with Loki was after about the second or the third episode, it wasn't about Loki. It was about, what was her name? Sylvie, the woman. And once again, I'm not trying to sound like, you know, a woman hater. I'm just saying it is odd to me that we came to like a character named Loki. You told us the baddest, the hardest to kill, the hardest to fight. We've been trying to get this person for 2,000 years. This is the greatest Loki ever. Not the one we know, not the one we even liked and appreciated for his sacrifice in Infinity War, but some random variant that we don't even know anything about. You created this character to be the greatest Loki ever. And it's like, how can the greatest Loki ever not be Loki? You know what I mean? The Loki that we've known and we've grown with through all these movies. So it's a situation where it's like, once again, I like Loki, but it was problematic. You made Loki, you know, you got to go back and remember, Loki was going toe-to-toe with the Avengers. You know what I'm saying? But, like, he got beat up by a random black woman security guard at the beginning of the series. You know what I mean? I don't know what the training is like in TVA, but I'm probably going to say TVA training versus Captain America. If he can go toe to toe with Captain America, I'm pretty sure he should be able to go toe to toe with a TVA security guard. He got thrown off the train by some random alien train guard people. We don't know what they were. Like, Loki's power levels in that show were so off to me. Even he got his butt whooped at the end by Sylvie. It was just like, okay, I've had enough. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind, and I'm gonna give you examples real quick because we talked about this last weekend. I'm just gonna give you some examples. When movies do women characters right, strong female characters that are in play. Obviously, Sarah Connors for Terminator 1, Terminator 2. I'm not talking about any of the other Terminators because they were trash. Let's see. You got somebody like, if you remember the old movie, The Long Kiss Goodnight, starring Samuel Jackson and God, what's her name? I can't think of her name, but she played a spy in that movie. Very powerful woman. You understand what I'm saying? She had a little amnesia at the beginning. If you haven't, man, go check out The Long Kiss Goodnight if you want to see how to write a strong female character. Perfect movie. The first Charlie's Angels, though, not that recent one, not that horrible version. I'm talking about the one with Lucy Liu, Cameron Diaz, and what's a little short? Drew Barrymore, I think. Yeah, that one. That is how you can do strong female characters. Another one I'm missing, should have probably did her first, Ripley from Aliens. You make strong female characters by making us care about the woman, and it's not like you have to go out your way to make her better, right? Because I'm sorry, I'm tired of the women just tossing these dudes around. These dudes is like 6'3", 240, and they just getting tossed around the room. Like, can we stop it? You know what I mean? Like, it's not even on no misogyny tip. It's just on I understand I'm talking about a world where gods and monsters and mutants and all these magical things exist, right? But can we at least establish what people's power levels are? You know what I mean? So let's get to that. So after Loki, we had the Black Widow movie. Now, they had a female director come in, and when they had the female director come in, I was like, oh, okay, this should, number one, be shot differently, because if you go back and start watching how Scarlett Johansson has been filmed in the Avengers movie, they normally film her butt up. I don't know why. It's always a butt angle with Scarlett Johansson. Like, I got this right here, man. It's funny. It was a Ant-Man meme, right? Where he was basically sitting on Scarlett Johansson's butt. You know what I'm saying? Now, once again, I know my boy Jeff is going to be like, why am I complaining about the Scarlett Johansson butt? Once again, I'm not complaining about it. I'm just listening to what people are criticizing some of the male directors for doing, why she always shot butt up. But if you go back and watch Black Widow, almost the entire movie is shot from a butt angle. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like check this out. This is another version, right? Like this is how Scarlett Johansson was shot when a man directed it, right? Like, man, why? This is her talking to Loki. Straight up behind, you know what I mean? Like, why are we doing this? But once again, you screwed up Black Widow. And you didn't even be creative with it, because basically what you did was, with Black Widow, you created it was basically Captain America and the Winter Soldier, and you made a female version of it. There were so many times that Scarlett Johansson should have died, and she didn't. And you have to realize she has no powers. She doesn't have any super soldier serum. She doesn't have any advanced healing. She doesn't have anything. That one scene where she falls off the smokestack, hits her head a couple of times, flip, flip, boom, 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 and then lands on her feet. I was like, director, what are we doing? You know, that scene where she's getting beat up by 30, 40 widows, the scene where she smashes her head on on the desk to break old boy's pheromone, where she couldn't, you know what I mean? Like, it was so stupid. Like the whole movie was dumb. The whole movie was dumb. Nobody cared. They killed all them people at that prison. Nobody cared. They kept trying to have these jokes. They joked about basically having all their reproductive organs ripped out. Nobody cared as a joke. And I'm like, the feel of this movie doesn't seem the same way. But let's go back to the Captain America Winter Soldier comparison. You had a masked villain, right? Taskmaster, versus a mass villain in Captain America Winter Soldier, which was Bucky, or the Winter Soldier. Spoiler alert, you weren't supposed to know that was Bucky, I guess, going into the movie, but I thought it was obvious, right? Then you have basically a person from their past come back. They end up fighting at the end in a huge falling sky fortress. It's the same movie. It's the exact same movie. They randomly, like when him and Black Widow randomly went to that army base and found Zola was still in the computer. Random. Same way it was random in Black Widow, where she randomly sends her these vials of this red juice or whatever it was, right? And she sent it to her sister, but then when they first meet up, they start fighting. Like, why are they fighting? If you didn't trust her, why did you send her the serum? Like, it doesn't make like the movie look like they just needed to have scenes happen and they just kind of just threw it together. But Black Widow was terrible. So once again, another reason why the Black Widow movie was terrible was because no matter what happened, you knew how she died in Endgame. So there were no stakes. Like I really wanted her in that final fight, right? I wanted her just to fly and just land on her feet. Just go ahead and just get it all the way out fake. Because like there were no stakes the whole time when I'm watching the movie. Think about the car chase where the car gets blown up. It flips 3 or 4 times. There's an explosion. Think about the first time she fought Taskmaster on the bridge. She's making a left turn. Boom. Gets hit by an explosion. Doesn't die. You understand? They flip, slide down into the subway. She doesn't die. The other character, Yelena, stabs the helicopter thing and perfectly blows off intact. She doesn't have any missing limbs from all these. Like, it kills every single person in the helicopter. But she just perfectly explodes away in the safest manner possible and just kind of sort of just floats to Earth. And as she's running off the helicarrier, it's like, oh, wait, there's a random parachute that just happens to be right here. I might need that. And it's like, come on, man. So then they have this ridiculous sky fight as all of this stuff is falling out of the sky. And then her and Taskmaster end up pulling her parachute. When they hit the ground, if you go back and watch the end, when they hit the ground, like, if you've ever jumped out of a plane, I ain't done it. I talked to a lot of people in the military. Shout out 82nd Airborne. But if you're jumping out of a plane or you're jumping out of something that high, you need to land on your feet. You can't land sideways. You can't land and roll. It doesn't work that way. And that's with, like, you know, it don't work that way. So Black Widow was terrible. They basically made the villain into what's my guy Harvey Weinstein. It's like they basically said we want the villain to be Harvey Weinstein. You know what I mean? Because that's what he looked like. That was the feel of the movie, and it was like it didn't work for me at all. Nothing they did in Black Widow worked at all. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to enjoy it. I was hoping they was gonna send Scarlett Johansson, but you screwed up, Marvel. The reason why you screwed up is because you should have had her movie come out. So we would have cared more about her, even though we cared about her anyway. We would have cared a lot more about it if her movie would have came out when Captain Marvel came out, but you blew it. So this is how we're starting off Phase 5. Now let's get into the latest Marvel edition real quick, which is this. What if, right? Now, what if basically says, you know, we're opening the door to millions of possibilities, right? So I remember the first one was, what if Captain Carter, or what if Agent Carter took the serum and became Captain Carter? Now, the question I had about that is, it was 2 questions. Now, let's look at Captain Carter, right? Okay, if you look at her, she has that's the flag of the United Kingdom on her shield, flag of the United Kingdom on her uniform. So my question is, why was she Captain Carter? Why wasn't she Captain Britain or Captain England? You know what I mean? Like, his name wasn't Captain Rogers, he was Captain America. So why wouldn't she represent like her country? Like, that part was a little weird. It was like, okay, it once again, it kind of seemed like you starting to push some of that stuff again, because I'm like, why was everything about her so different? Like, go back and remember when Steve Rogers was getting the serum put into him, right? They said it's going to be painful. It's going to hurt. And you remember hearing Steve Rogers like yelling pain. And it was like, Steve, we can stop right now if you want to. He was like, no, keep going. And he's still yelling after that, right? But it was like, when they did it with her, it was like, okay, she's in the little chamber. All this stuff is happening to her. And it's like, she's not in pain. And once again, somebody say, well, women have higher pain. I get that. We're talking about, I get it, childbirth, all that. I get that. But what I'm saying is, we're talking about a process that apparently is extremely painful. Didn't even let out a grunt or nothing. I'm like, oh, okay. So at that point, I was like, yeah, they're about to go there. And then they kept having all the kind of sort of misogyny, feminism references, like, what are you doing? It was too extreme, because the bottom line was, she was there. She was working with all of these people before she became Captain Carter. So it really wasn't any point of bringing up her gender. It was like they did it. They didn't even bring it up really. I don't even think they brought it up in Captain America, the First Avenger. So it's like, so now let's go back to how OP they made Captain Carter. First of all, how high up was she when she does like a triple backflip, lands on her feet, flips a tank, basically does a keto move on a I don't know if that was we used to call them two and a half tons, or the big truck, right? Big truck's coming right for her. She just basically just flips it over her shoulder like in a keto move, because you're supposed in keto, little quick martial arts reference. In keto, you're supposed to use somebody else's energy against them. It's basically a self-defense technique, right? So it's a lot of flipping. So if you try to punch me, grab the arm, flip, hip toss, that's what it is, right? So it's like she ketoed a truck that was traveling, let's say 35 miles an hour. When somebody says, oh, well, you remember in Captain America, the Winter Soldier, Captain America stopped the helicopter from taking off. And you know what I say? I agree with you, but I'm going to tell you how it's different. You got to understand, it's a little bit of a nerd moment. I'm going to teach you something like kinetic energy, right? Kinetic energy is built up by what? Motion, right? Which basically means this. If I'm standing behind the car and I've got a rope tied to it, and I'm like, all right, come on, pull the rope. Go ahead and hit the gas, right? It is going to, I'm still going to get pulled. Let's not be confused. I'm not strong like that. But the energy is not built up yet, so it's easier for me to stop a relatively slow moving object versus, okay, drive directly at me at 35 miles an hour and I'm going to stick my hands out and let's see what happens. Absolutely not. That's the reason why when Captain America was holding the helicopter in place, yes, it was a helicopter. Yes, it was OP for Captain America, in my opinion. However, the science of it was more legit, because it wasn't like the helicopter was coming directly at Captain America and he just stuck his hands out like the Hulk and was like, yeah, I stopped it. It doesn't work like that. She was stopping tanks and all this other. I mean, that part where she did like 2 flips over about a 300-foot wall. I'm like, for Captain America to get over a wall that was like 7, he needed a motorcycle to get enough momentum. But you had Captain Carter that could just run alongside people in motorcycles. Like, that's my point. If you're fast enough to catch the motorcycle, what do you need the motorcycle for? Like, it was so much stuff going on that I'm like, not digging it, but we'll wait and see. So we had all that stuff to deal with. All right. So then we get to the What If, right? The Chadwick Boseman episode. A lot of people like this episode. To me, it was okay. I think it was a little bit more nostalgic because Chadwick Boseman was his kind of last Marvel appearance. So you kind of sort of enjoyed the nostalgia of seeing him kind of one more time. But, after watching Guardians of the Galaxy, after watching Infinity War, Endgame, seeing who Thanos was, the fact that Thanos was on the crew, the fact that if you look in your, I believe, yeah, so it will be this side that you can see my finger waving, Taser face over here. And then you've got all these people deciding to work with T'Challa. It seemed a little bit like forced to me. You know what I'm saying? It seemed I get it. You want to make T'Challa charismatic, but I'm like, but that's almost all Peter Quill has going for him. Not trying to make a comparison between the charisma between Peter Quill and T'Challa, but what I'm saying is, it's like T'Challa was able to win over Thanos. He was able to win over Razorface. He was able to win over all these people, but it's like you almost basically kind of take all of the credit that we had to basically give Peter Quill for putting all this stuff together and doing the things that he was able to do. So even though I liked the episode, I didn't like the weaker Thanos, because it seemed like even when he was fighting like Proxima Midnight and I don't know what they call him, Black Dwarf, whatever they want to call him, like he wasn't Thanos. He wasn't holding his own, because anybody knows he should have been able to take them out like easy. But it was kind of sort of like they wanted to push some themes. I didn't like how they made the Collector. I understand this Collector was not the same Collector that we had known in the Marvel movies, but I didn't like how they made the Collector. They made him way too OP. But once again, it's what if. So it could have been what if the Collector was overpowered as hell. I would have been perfectly fine with that. But it was like, you know what? I don't know. I don't know what Marvel's doing. So what if happened, and then we had the last episode. We got an episode coming out probably in about I don't know, about 8 hours from the time the show will air. So I want to see what they're gonna do. We know we got the Marvel Zombies episode coming. We know we got they're gonna have Captain Carter lead the Avengers in the battle for New York. So we're gonna have to see how that goes. So we got some things coming up, and I think they're gonna actually make Gamora like Thanos. She's going to get the Infinity Gauntlet. So we got some of that stuff coming again. Once again, you know what I mean? Not trying to sound like that guy, but it's like we had an OP Captain Carter / Captain Britain / Captain America. We had an OP Wanda and WandaVision. We had an OP Flag Smasher in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. We had an OP Sylvie. And it's like in every single movie that they've been coming out with lately, all the women are just a little bit too powerful. Like, just keep Captain Marvel the way she is. You know, if y'all bring in Rogue, I'm fine. You know, if you want to bring in the Phoenix or Jean Grey, I don't have an issue with strong female characters. I don't. I just want them to be comic book accurate. I don't think I'm asking by too much by asking for that. So I want to see how they're going to do that, because now let's see if Gamora is going to be a better Thanos than Thanos, right? So that's where we're at with What If. Shang-Chi. We got Shang-Chi coming out this Friday, and I'm a little disappointed because they brought this villain in whose name is Knife Hands, which is a pretty terrible name. But I also thought it was corny how and I'm sorry, it's a little racist. I'm sorry. Why is Wong? Please explain it. I haven't seen the movie yet, but I need for you to explain to me why Wong, who is pretty much one of the few Asian characters, because remember you jacked up the what was her name? Not the exalted one, the ancient one, right? The ancient one was supposed to be an old Chinese man, but you decided to make him a bald-headed white woman for some reason. No idea why you did that, Marvel, but I was like, whatever. I still like Doctor Strange. Keep it moving, right? So you take your only Asian character in Wong, and you're like, oh, we've got to throw Wong into Shang-Chi, and it's like, you know, Wong technically shouldn't have nothing really to do with this. I want to see how they kind of mix this in, but I'm just like, so you're only it's almost like, you know, if like Sam being one of the few black characters, like Sam and what's my dog's name? War Machine. If they just end up somehow being in this next Wakanda, I think it's called Wakanda Forever or something like that. Whatever new movie, they just end up in Wakanda for some reason because they're two of the black characters in Marvel. You're gonna be like, it doesn't make any sense. And they just throw Monica Rambeau in there too. They just send all the black characters to Wakanda. You know what I mean? You don't have to do that. Like, this is a Shang-Chi introduction movie. You don't need Wong, well, you shouldn't need Wong to sell your movie. You don't need Wong to be in it at all because you're introducing Phase 5. Shang-Chi should be able to stand on his own. So I don't know, man. I'm going to say I think Shang-Chi is going to be Okay, it's not going to be the greatest Marvel movie ever. I don't think it's going to be horrible because, well, actually, I take that back. It could be horrible because we've now seen like terrible Marvel movies. We're used to that with DC, but we're not really used to that with Marvel. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to wait and see how this goes. But I don't. I put you like this. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it'll be better than Black Widow. So whatever that means to you, it should be better than Black Widow. But I don't even think it's gonna be better than Spider-Man: Far From Home. So that's where I'm setting the bar. I'm going to go watch it. It's probably the first movie that I've seen, post or wherever we're at in the Panini. I don't know where we're at right now, but it's gonna probably be the first movie I've seen inside the movie theaters in a long time. So I'm gonna go actually check it out this weekend. I will be reviewing it at my normal time on Saturday. I just did a show tonight because I don't know. I'm in a content mood. So if you didn't tune into the beginning, like I said, I'm coming with another show in about 15 minutes after I wrap this one up. It'll be a critical inception talking about intersectionality. And then at 9 p.m., I'll be doing a show over with my boy, that boy Birdie. That is going to be his show. His channel is called Real is Red TV. You can follow him on IG at that boy Birdie, and you can follow his channel at Real is Red TV on YT. So this is where we're at in the Marvel universe. So I don't think Shang-Chi, but I honestly think that the Eternals is going to be horrible. Like, I don't even understand what they're talking. It's not going to be good. This is going to be like a Marvel version of, what was the Aliens movie of Prometheus, right? Where you had a good concept with aliens work, and then you just kind of screwed it up and they started making all these random movies. So Prometheus was supposed to go back and kind of explain the origins of aliens and where humans came from, all these things, right? The engineers, all that crap, right? So I believe this is going to be like the Marvel very slow version. It's going to probably be about 2.5, 3 hours. Not a lot of action, a lot of talking. There's going to be a couple of social messages in there. I put this image up there because, once again, my dog from ATL, Paperboy, has a husband in this movie. I don't know why, but he has a husband in this movie. I believe Salma Hayek's character, who originally was a man, has a wife in this movie. And then they also changed another character, the speedster of the group, who was a man in the comic books, into the woman. She's the if you watch The Walking Dead, she was the deaf woman in The Walking Dead. So if you watch that, then you'll know what I'm talking about. But I don't know, Marvel. You're not selling me. But it seems like they're gonna have to use the big hitter to kind of sort of pull them out and kind of bring the franchise along. So if you haven't seen the new Spider-Man trailer, I recommend you seeing it, because that might be the only movie that gives me hope. Even though I don't like how they're kind of setting it up, even though I think it is comic book correct. It's like, Doctor Strange, I don't want anybody to know I'm Spider-Man. Can you please use magic that I'm pretty sure won't have any ill effects on this universe? Can you please just produce a magic spell so that nobody knows I'm Spider-Man? I'm sitting there like, Doctor Strange, that shouldn't be something that you would be. You should be like, remember how before you were so cautious about, even using the time stone? Like, this is, time stone. Like, you were magic responsible. It's like all of a sudden we just got lazy and it's like, you know what? Yeah, well, I'll just go ahead and create a spell so people won't know you're Spider-Man. But there will be some aspects of this movie that I think could be really cool. Number one, if they bring in multiverse Spider-Mans, which means we might see the Tobey Maguire version. I forget the other guy's name in the second one, the one with Jamie Foxx and the horrible Green Goblin or whatnot. That one. And you might even see Miles Morales as well. So you might have like this huge Spider-Man team up. You've already seen the villain Dr. Octopus from the Tobey Maguire version, right? So the multiverse is going to exist. So you can see people like Dr. Octopus. You can see you see the Hobgoblin grenade. So that might mean I forget the old dude, but the old dude that plays the villain look kind of crazy. I forget his name. You might see him again. You've also got you might have that Sinister Six, because they never really worked that out. So Rhino, we've already seen the Scorpion in one of the post-credit scenes from, I think, Spider-Man Homecoming, right? So we've already kind of seen the Sinister Six things that they've been kind of throwing out there. So you might see a multiverse of villains as well. So I think with all that being said, a huge Spider-Man battle, they might throw, I don't know if they're going to throw Venom out there maybe, but a huge Spider-Man and about 6-7 villains. They could bring Electro back, the Jamie Foxx version. I think they're going to switch him up a little bit. He shouldn't be that horrible looking blue person they made. They might switch him up a little bit. They might not. But you could see like this nice crossover with a lot of different villains. Sandman, some of the old ones that we're used to seeing. Spider-Man might be one of the good hopes, and I'm thinking Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness could help it out. But it's like some of these other movies that we're looking forward to, I honestly don't think are going to be that good. So just, you know, if somebody out there from Marvel is watching, you know what I mean? Like, if you need some help, I'm willing to give my services, not for free, but if you need to get me in these writing rooms and when y'all start coming up with these concepts and y'all are making these movies, I can be like, yo, don't do that. That's horrible. Nah, don't put that in there. That's not funny. Now, I can help you out, you know, for a very, very charge. I can save the Marvel universe. So somebody out there, I don't know who, Kevin Feige, you're watching, go ahead and holler at your boy. You understand what I'm saying? You know how to get in touch with me. Go ahead and holler at me, man. I can help you save the Marvel universe because the direction that you're going right now, you're going to blow it. And if you blow it, like I said, it's going to be like being up 28-3 in the Super Bowl and losing. So this has been my show for today, man. I appreciate everybody tuning in, checking in with me. Like I said, I'm going to be right back, man. All I got to do is I'm about to just give me something to drink real quick. I'm going to come right back for a critical inception in like about 5-10 minutes, man. So if you want some more content, then like I said, for my late night people, we're going to be up to probably 9 o'clock. I don't know how long that show is going to be. With my boy, that boy Birdie, that show always gets crazy. But until next time, man, I've been the King of Comics, man. I'll see y'all next time.